So I'm the owner of Coin Vigilante, and throughout my journey, I decided to come up with a brand that would speak my passion for Bitcoin, and that is timepieces. Bitcoin watches that are built by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners, and my goal is to push Bitcoin adoption one watch at a time. Currently, more than 50 countries, and at the end of the day, I'm just someone out there who wants financial sovereignty for people, individuals. That's why I'm into Bitcoin. That's why I'm in this industry.
Awesome. Yeah. And we've talked last time about so many different topics. I remember AI. I remember like the importance of even like small portions of Bitcoin. I think we also talked a little bit about the wealth transfer, but maybe like, is there some topic that kind of stood out to you the past couple of, I don't know, 8 months or since we talked?
I just think it's funny because we were talking about where Bitcoin will be shaping up into. I mean, right now it's sitting at around 113,000, got to 123. I think 8 months ago, what was the price? Like, was it like 60? No, not 60. Probably 80,000. It was when it was ranging in this very like just boring zone. I don't know, anywhere from like 80 to 60. And we've pretty much doubled since then, and we have been seeing how every big company now is chasing Bitcoin and adding it to their treasury, right? So many treasury companies now popping up everywhere. And it's just definite that Bitcoin is here to stay, and that it is the digital gold that everyone is going after. I mean, there's always going to be other shiny things, maybe a couple of things that overperform in the short term, but like, the rich people and the people that are smart and know where the future is, know that they want to hold Bitcoin as their almost savings account, really.
It's super interesting. Also, like, you probably talk with your clients also a lot with like around Bitcoin and how fundamental this is, because I think we want to capture this point. And I always say this on the podcast, it's kind of crazy that what a time to be alive. Like it's such a, if you think about where we come from a monetary standpoint and how long this kind of history shaped out, and then how this Bitcoin thing just started just a couple of years, like 16 years ago, and now where we are heading with this thing, and it will be a very long transition. It's such a profound piece, such a profound time that we are living in, and I don't know, we really want to capture this time in the history, and yeah, I love that we've partnered up. But yeah, it's really interesting how we come from this like nothing to like 16 years. There's some development, and now it seems like I just saw today Harvard is even buying Bitcoin. Have you seen that? It's so crazy because they have. I think like 8 years ago, brought up an article that says like Bitcoin is more likely to hit $100 than 100K, and now it hit 100K, and now they actually bought Bitcoin with the Bitcoin ETF of BlackRock.
Yeah, it's pretty neat to see how all these death stories for Bitcoin have just been refuted. I mean, I think what's interesting is seeing have you followed Ray Dalio much at some point?
But yeah, like his theory on those cycles.
It's just his research has been very interesting. That's something that I've been paying attention to, especially looking at how the changing world order happens as fiat money and debt cycles shape up, right? So we're just hitting an unbelievable debt in our system, at least here in the U.S. I mean, I don't even know where we're at, like $30+ trillion in debt. And they just keep raising the debt ceiling. And at the end of the day, that is simply more taxes on us. We're paying the interest, right? The taxpayers. And so all you're doing is impoverishing us more and more and more. And you're seeing it, in Ray Dalio's theory, which I'm not a guru about this, but he talks about how cultures and even the way societies react and act normally, they become a little more violent. They become a little more divisive between each other. We're seeing this in the U.S. happen here and there. It starts in little places, it starts in little areas, and then it grows into bigger things. And he talks about when the money is dying, and the people feel it indirectly and directly. And when you see things more expensive around you, when you see, we have to think about it. Money, as much as people like to say, oh, it's okay, we don't need money, being rich is a bad thing. No, having money is a good thing. It makes life a little easier. And when you start seeing things get more expensive, whether you like it or not, it starts affecting your lifestyle. It starts affecting your decisions. And we're seeing that happen even in one of the best countries in the world, which is the United States. And it's interesting to see how when you're not in the Bitcoin standard or in a standard that protects your purchasing power, you're seeing society slowly destroy itself, quite literally. You're seeing people having to become, what's the word? Just overly risky with their investments, overly risky, right? Before you would just be able to hold your money in a bank account and you're getting a percentage on that, and that's fine. Or you hold it in gold and you're getting a nice return. Or the S&P 500. Well, the S&P 500, if you put money in the S&P 500, yeah, it gives you like 8 to 12% yearly, but that is 8%, 7.5 to 8% is basically the increased rate of the money supply every year on average. And so really you're not even, increasing your purchasing power. You're barely at break even. So if you want to break even and just stay at par with inflation, then sure, S&P 500. But if you want to beat inflation, then you have to jump into Bitcoin, something that, goes up. I forget, what does Michael Saylor say that on average it's going to go in like 35% a year? Like if you steadily buy on average, something like that. So it's just interesting how I'm seeing Ray Dalio's connection with what's going on.
Yeah, I think his theory is for the next 21 years, it will go up on average 28%, which would be insane. 28%. And right now we are growing even faster. I think the last year was around 80 to 90% actually.
Yeah.
So that's 3x from what he thinks it will grow. Obviously, we're in a bull market, but people also don't feel like we're in a bull market. But you talked about something interesting where like more money is better, and the mindset around that. How do you think Bitcoin will change our mindset or our relationship with money if it's no longer fiat, but it's then Bitcoin?
I start thinking of longer term projects, because I know and I have the safety that if my money is in Bitcoin, my future is going to be bright. I know that the power of my purchasing power is going to increase, and I know at least for the safety of my family, there will be financial safety, a cushion for sure. Every time I look at my bank account, which I think every Bitcoiner is the same. You only have a little bit of couple dollars in the bank account, and like everything else is in your wallet, like Bitcoin. Like you have nothing in your bank. Anyway, it just worries me because I just know that inflation, and it's not even about Bitcoin going up. Oh, I'm afraid Bitcoin is going to go up. It's not even that. It's quite literally the inflation that's happening and in financial assets in general, and homes, and because that's the important thing. I mean, sure, food can get expensive here and there, but like if you want to hold your purchasing power, you want to hold it in assets. It makes me want to spend that fiat faster. That's the whole system that we currently live in. Spend it now because it's going to be worth less in the future, right? With Bitcoin, it changes my whole mindset. It's low time preference. I think about longer projects. I know I'm safe. I know I can build for many years. Fiat, I got to keep going. Take on debt because we got to keep, investing in the business, this and that. So it's just interesting how it works. I know that for me, I've grown a lot of peace of mind, and I can see in other people, including family members, including friends, who are either complaining about how expensive things are, about how they can't keep up with their paychecks, about all these things. And the hardest thing, which hurts me too, is they don't understand what the solution is. Even if I tell them, Bitcoin is your escape, man. They think they either missed out because it's too expensive. They think that it's just, they just can't visualize, and they can't comprehend what the solution can bring.
Yeah. Do you think, like, why do you think this is? Like, I go into depth actually on some of the episodes, like why people don't see it. And we actually had right before with after the podcast where we talked about human behavior and the game theory around how someone actually gets into Bitcoin. And we talked about that one professor that wrote that article in Harvard that Bitcoin is more likely to $100. And even now, his employer bought Bitcoin, like Harvard. He's a professor there, and he's now still saying like, no, it's nothing. Like he just didn't see coming that president is going into this worthless kind of a thing, and it's really interesting how ego and the human behavior kind of comes in between seeing something so obvious, and that's kind of the asymmetric pattern in it.
I mean, I think. I mean, you've obviously had probably better, deeper conversation about this, but it comes very simple. Humans are very simple creatures, and when it comes to, it's all about comfort, and it's all about quite literally taking the orange pill and exiting the matrix. It's so obvious that we live in a system that takes advantage of us, but unless you have this sort of thing click in your brain about like, I want to know more. It's about being humble enough and accepting enough to tell yourself, wait a minute, maybe everything I think about is not right. And maybe everything I do, there might be someone trying to control that above my head that I don't have the power. And most people don't think that way, man, because everyone's happy. Everyone's happy right now. I'm going to just get home. I'm going to watch my football game and I'm good. I'm going to have my couple beers. I'm going to go back to work and then I'm going to come back and do my, sit in the couch again and then just keep doing it. And it's the same thing over and over again. And it's comfortable. I mean, really, at the end of the day, they'll probably live an okay life. But beyond that, they don't know how they're getting taken advantage of in the financial system. They don't know that the education system also doesn't teach you about money. They don't know that, we live in a debt system that is robbing you of your future. And it's because they're okay with it. Like they don't even understand. They don't want to get past that simple-minded, mentality. And I'm not saying I'm better than that or you're better than that or whatever, but you have to have that click. And number one, it has to be humility and acceptance at the core level of human behavior. If you're not humble enough to understand, let me take a step back and look at what's going on. And maybe I'm wrong about some things I'm thinking about. Or let me hear that guy out who's trying to tell me what's better. Let me hear that guy out, right? And accepting. And then going beyond just hearing it. Like you have to absorb it, And sometimes it takes 50 times to hear it, to understand it. And actually, like, you know what? You're right, Carlos. Like, or Robin, you're right. I think I might start putting a little bit of money in. I just finally got my sisters to start putting money in Bitcoin. Just now. And they're my sisters. I see them like every other day, and it's great. I get all these texts. I'm like, my money's going up. It's great, and I'm like, yeah, it is. You're going to live a better life. And there's a reason why I'm telling you to get in, right? So it's just, I'm sure you've had some conversations, but I think it's humility, acceptance at the core level.
Yeah, it's and you understand marketing very well. So and that's thinking about how we can get Bitcoin to more people and thinking how Bitcoin actually gets to more people is for me very simple. We need more people that already have Bitcoin to speak up about Bitcoin. I think that's probably the best thing we can possibly do. If you already understand Bitcoin, you're educated on it, like tell your neighbors, start a meetup, like go somewhere to do something. Like not everyone has to like do something huge. You don't have to write a book on Bitcoin to be a Bitcoin educator. You can just like talk about Bitcoin with your sister.
And it takes time, man. Just like you said, it's kind of like marketing. I think on average it takes like 8 to 10 touch points to try to get someone to convert or start a conversation about buying a product or service, right? So you have to hit people from all directions multiple times. And then the other thing is, like you said, it just takes time, and I think we're on the early adopter phase still. I really do. The people before, it used to be just a couple retail guys who, man, Bitcoin, it's like it's gonna go huge. That would be us at the beginning. Then it started growing into big rich people, and institutions are starting to pay attention, because where there's alpha, they always want to go there, and so they're getting into Bitcoin, and they're now getting into Bitcoin before the rest of the world is getting into Bitcoin. And they kind of want it to be that way, right? Hold a Bitcoin. I mean, what's Michael Saylor doing? I'm holding as much Bitcoin as I can, because I know where it's going to head, and I want to own most of it. And it's the same way. I mean, I think we also need to cut him some slack. We are still in the early adopter phase, and it takes time to adopt things. I mean, some people early on get it, but for the majority of people, they won't. I mean, until maybe 2030, 2035. And at that point, Bitcoin's super, super mainstream. Like, we're literally all using it. And maybe even indirectly, to where we don't even know that we're actually on the Bitcoin blockchain or in the ecosystem. Like, literally things are happening right now, and we're using Bitcoin, but we don't even know about it. Or like, hey, send me some money, and someone actually sends you money. You don't even know how you're getting the money, but it's sent through Bitcoin. Like,
Yeah,
that's
it's this
how adoption
indirect
happens.
thing. Yeah, it's this indirect thing, and I think most people will actually we will never have direct access to Bitcoin, but most people will have indirect access to Bitcoin through third parties, and some of them won't even understand what Bitcoin really is. They just use it and don't even notice it. And you, with your sister, I'm sure you've got that question somehow, because you said we are early, and I think we are very, very early. I think people don't get how early we actually are. But you for sure got the question from your sister, like, oh, like we are like at 100K, or like whatever the price was when she got in, and like, oh, it feels so high, it feels so all immature, and we are 16 years into the thing, and 16 years can feel long. How do you make someone understand that we are actually early, and it actually is nothing the thing that we already did now?
Because the acceleration and the growth of the money supply is always going to keep growing. They're always going to keep printing money. And when that happens, you have a couple places to park your money to beat that. And one is real estate, one which comes with, it's great. It's got great tax incentives here and there. You can depreciate against your income, whatever. Cash flow. Then you have, but there's a lot of expenses and a lot of maintenance that comes with it, and a lot of work to maintain it. And then there's the S&P 500 stocks, and then there's metals, I guess, and then there's Bitcoin. And out of all those, Bitcoin is the most scarce, and it has been proven that the network doesn't fail. There's a lot of demand for it. It doesn't even just store your value. You can use it as money by paying someone, right? It's a medium of exchange. And when you look at that, and it doesn't, I mean, it's not even like rocket science. When the countries are printing trillions of dollars, inflation goes up, and people simply, because that's our nature, we put our money in stuff that's scarce because that's happening. Well, where are people going to put most of their money? Bitcoin over the long term. They're going to start shifting money out of all the other assets, out of real estate. We're seeing it right now. Grant Cardone's doing it. And Grant Cardone, it took him a little bit to finally relax and understand Bitcoin. He's like, wait a minute, I am a real estate mogul, but crap, I got to start allocating some of that money into Bitcoin too. So you're seeing that, right? It's shifting into Bitcoin. People who hold stocks are shifting into Bitcoin. People who even held businesses, like MicroStrategy was like a research company and a service provider for stuff. They're allocating their resources into Bitcoin. They're transferring cash that comes from that business into Bitcoin. What are countries doing? And this is the easiest. I mean, come on. The U.S. is going to have a strategic Bitcoin reserve. I don't know when. I don't know why, but they're talking about it. And the government is always slow at doing things. So if that doesn't ring a bell to you, then I don't know how we're not early. Like, we're doing that. Every country is going to be pouring money into Bitcoin. They're already doing that. And the banks and institutions are pouring in money into Bitcoin. So at some point, I mean, we are early because everyone is preparing themselves for what's to come in the future, which is more of a money printer. Money printer is infinite, and you want to hold what's scarce. And yes, it's at 100,000, but again, you're thinking short term, dude. The debt for the U.S. used to be at 1 trillion. Someone could have said, well, that's a lot. I don't think we want to hire. Then 10 trillion, then 20, then 30 plus. And it's going to keep going, 40, 50, 60. I mean, we're going to get to 100 trillion, dude. I mean, it's eventually, I mean, who's going to stop it? Yeah, it's because the sad thing is we got to this point where the only way to keep the system going is by debasing the currency, because there is no other way. There is no other way.
And it's crazy to think about how fast this goes. And you're like 1 trillion. I think we're now at 37, actually, something along those lines. And you said something interesting about the intuition, because I think everyone truly knows that what a good money is. And we had some stories on the podcast already, but most importantly, when I talk with my young cousins that are like under 10 or like 8 years old or something like that, if I talk to them about money and just ask them, like, what do you think money is? And what do you think we need it for? They intuitively know it better than most 40-year-old, because I think as a human being, we can learn, we can talk about and think about the first principles very intuitively. We know, oh yeah, like money should hold the value. I should be able to put the money to all my merchants, and it's probably wrong if someone else can print this money and I cannot. And all those very basic things that are very simple for some reason, but are not very simple for people that got educated in traditional financial space, and they learned the fiat system so strong that they're like, oh, this Bitcoin thing all of a sudden doesn't make sense. No, actually, that what you learned did not make sense, but you've really been trained nicely in this fiat system that you think 2% inflation is a good thing, which I still cannot comprehend how we got people to accept that. Like, that's unreal for me. Thank you for watching this video. This was only a snippet of the podcast. And if you want to watch the full episode and get all of the context of this episode, you can click right here. Or here. Oh, maybe also here.